We are ready when you're ready.
Okay, good morning to you. And you might want to mute it.
Good afternoon, Harriet.
okay, so I'm Harriet, and I'll be taking you through the Wikidata session. Um, please jot down your questions, and then when I'm done, you could ask me so I explain um, whatever your problems may be. Okay, so I'm sure you've already heard about Wikidata because we've had some sessions on Wikidata. And I just want you to know that Wikidata is a open knowledge base where people can edit and contribute content. So content on everything you can think about. Okay. Wikidata is a sister project of Wikipedia. So there are so many other projects that the Wikimedia Foundation runs, and Wikidata is one of them. Wikidata came about as a result of two problems that existed on Wikipedia. That's outdated data. I know we've talked about this before. I don't know, Phoebe, if you could help me with what I mean by outdated data. Outdated data.
Hello, Harriet.
Yes.
Our data.
Yes, outdated data. Yeah.
Outdated data.
Yes, yes.
Oh, I was actually hearing our data.
Oh no, sorry, outdated data. Yeah.
Okay, probably data that is outdated or like that needs to be updated or something.
Okay. Yes. And thank you. Earlier on, we gave examples like tenure of office and then populations of people that existed on the articles of Wikipedia. So this is one of the problem that gave rise to Wikidata. Another problem too was repetitive work. As you may all are aware, we have like 300 languages that an article can be found or written in on Wikipedia. So what we mostly get used to or edit with is English because most people speak English here and also outside. But we have other languages as well, and then people are very conversant in speaking and writing it. So you have other articles being written in other languages as well. But the problem here is when you write an article in a different language, let's say French, about Akufo-Addo or about ICode, and then there's a change with regards to ICode. Maybe they have a new branch or they have a new head or whatever it is, a change of executive or something. To change it in other languages becomes a problem because if no one is paying attention to ICode, then that means the data found on ICode remain the same in other languages, but on the English Wikipedia, where maybe someone will change it. So there's this problem where there's lacking triggers. That's if you're not following a particular information or you don't speak a particular language, then it will be very difficult for you to what make that effort of Hi, Phoebe.
Welcome back, Harriet.
Yeah, I'm really sorry about that. Everything just went off. I don't know. Mm, Anyway, so I'm going to continue from where we left off. So as I was saying, with the scenario where some students were asked to fetch water with their hands. So about 10 people will fetch water from the tap and then transfer it onto the next person till it gets to the last person. And then the little amount of water that will be left in the person's palm is what will be transferred into the bucket. So this is something repetitive because under normal circumstances, they could just fetch the water with the bucket and that ends it. So this one of the this another problem that we had with Wikipedia where we have to do that kind of work by changing one statement or just a little change that we have to do to with an edit. Then everyone will have to do it across all the other languages. So it came this gave rise to Wikidata. And like I said earlier on, Wikidata is a knowledge base where you have information that other people can edit and also contribute to. So it's just like Wikipedia, whatever you write is not the final thing because people can add up. It allows room for what changes, and it's not just one thing that says it all, but so many other things can add up to it. Another thing I also want you to know is it's multilingual, just like Wikipedia. That means whatever you write can be written in other languages. But then you ask me, why is it that we said there's this problem of repetitive work with Wikipedia, in which you find it in other languages, and on Wikidata too, we have it multilingual. Means we face the same problem. Well, to avoid that problem of repetitive work, knowledge on Wikidata is stored in a structured form. That is, information is not just left on its whole as you see on Wikipedia articles where it's mostly just text, but you find that informations are stored in a form where it's numbers, it has a unique identity or a unique number attached to it. So it makes it very easy for you to deal with information. So when you open a Wikidata item or um, at item, all you find is mostly blue links. That's letters or words are written in blue, and then you can easily read or find out more information about this particular word by clicking on that particular word. So that's what differentiates Wikipedia from Wikidata. Wikipedia is more of text, but Wikidata is more of what linked data. And this data is stored in a form of numbers. It has a unique identity attached to it. So if I go to Wikidata now, and then I look for Phoebe Addison, Phoebe's name is going to have a unique number that is probably Q with a number attached to it. So I'm just going to share my screen and then help you have a better understanding of what I'm talking about. So I'm saying here that Wikidata on Wikidata information is stored in a structured form. That is, you have the label here and you have a number in brackets here. This tells you that wherever you find Charlotte say, you find this number in brackets. And I was using your name as an example. That means when you find another Phoebe Addison, the number you find here will be different from whatever the other Phoebe Addison. Okay, so let's visit Charlotte's page on Wikipedia and then see what we can. So this is Charlotte Assay's page on Wikipedia, and you find that um, most of the information are not linked, but here you have this which is linked. This is linked here. Unlike on Wikidata where you find that everything here is linked. So you have here female linked, Ghana linked, or say linked, except for the date of birth here. And we have here English linked, lawyer linked. Okay. And everything that you find here is stored in a central storage. That is, everything is being placed in one location under labels or under categories. Unlike Wikipedia, where you might find Charlotte Osei in one place under different labels and all those other things without a particular identifier attached to it. Okay, so let me share my screen with a page that gives a brief explanation to Wikidata, and then we'll go with that. So this is a brief look at Wikidata. When you find Wikidata, this is how it looks like. Where we have here an item, property, and value. We have an item being Marie Curie, and then property being field of work and value. Now, what we saw on Charlotte Osei's page is similar to this, where we have Charlotte Osei's name here. And in this instance, this is the label. So wherever you find Charlotte Osei's name or Phoebe Addison or whatever you write about is the label. And whatever number you find in brackets becomes the item identifier. That is the unique number related to this particular person, as I demonstrated with Charlotte Osei's page. Now we find here a description which tells us who Marie Curie is. That is a French Polish physicist and chemist. So this gives you a little bit information about whoever you are talking about. And this aliases, that's any other name that the person could be known by. And we are going to go ahead with statements. And over here, we find that statements include identifiers, site links at the bottom of an item. But I want to explain that to me, statements are like paragraphs. They tell you, they give you more information about whoever you are writing about here. So, for instance, we are talking about Mount Everest. So some of the statements we can generate here is going to tell us more about Mount Everest. We can talk about the country in which it is situated or located. We can also talk about the height. So these are paragraphs that we can expand. You understand? So statements are basically like paragraphs, and statements are made of a property, a value, and then a qualifier. So what do we mean by property? A property mostly describes something. It tells you something, and it requires a specific information from you. So when I tell you, or when I mention height, this is a property of someone. You can describe someone by their height, right? But then whatever I write in response to this property becomes the value. So we talk about Mount Everest, as I mentioned earlier. This is the property, it's the tallest mountain. But whatever value I write, as in the height above sea level or below sea level, becomes the value. Okay. And then the qualifiers. Qualifiers are ways of adding more information to what your value. So I'm talking about Phoebe being the lead for arts and feminism. It could be that probably next month there would be another lead for arts and feminism. So what we can do is we can add a qualifier to say that, oh, Phoebe is not just like she hasn't always been the lead for arts and feminism. She was the lead for this period of time. So a qualifier is more or less like adding period of time or adding more information like academic major or academic degree. I'm going to show you Charlotte Osei's page, and then you could see what we mean by qualifiers here. But in a nutshell, I just want you to know that statements ways of what adding more information to a particular label or item we are talking about here. And statements are written by property, a value, and then a qualifier. So we have here position held. This is the page of Charlotte say. As you can see above here. And like we said, this is the label and this is the unique identity. And we have a description here that says former Ghanaian electoral commissioner. Okay. If there was any other name that we knew her for, it would have been written here, also known as. Now, these are statements. Statements, like I said, tell you more about whoever you are writing about. In this case, this statement is telling us that Charlotte Osei is a human being. And in this case, it's telling us that Charlotte Osei is what, a female. And it's also telling here that she's what, a Ghanaian, or she comes from Ghana. These are all statements. And I said earlier that statements requires value. So this is a, I said earlier that statements are made of property and then value. In this case, the occupation, we sometimes describe people by their occupation. That's, oh, this person is a what, an engineer. This person is a lawyer. So as you can see here, this is the property occupation. And here we have the value being what, lawyer. And I mentioned that we add qualifiers to give more information about a value. So we have here the property position held, and we have here the value being president. And under president, there are so many places where one can be president. President of a country, president of a club, president of a university or something, an SRC. So right now, what we have here is what, to give us more information about who this president is, we have of, so which is electoral commission. This is a qualifier giving us more information about this value president. We also have the start time that should tell us that she was the president of the electoral commission of Ghana for a period of time. That's from June 2015. And these are all qualifiers giving us more information about president here. And going forward, we have member of any other committee or organization she belongs to. We could add that. And we also have dedicated as statement or paragraph for me. That's throwing more light about her education wherever she's schooled. And you find here that they've not written any other thing attached to the University of Ghana. But you all agree with me that there's more to attending the University of Ghana. If she was, what course did she study? And then was it, what degree did she acquire? Was it a BSc or MSc under this? So this can be improved by adding more information as to the course she studied and the major, the degree, sorry, under all these universities. And you ask yourself, so I now get what you are talking about. We have statements, we have properties, we have values. So if I want to create something under Wikidata, what do I do? Or how do I go about it? To create something on Wikidata, it's very easy. And you must first make sure that you have what, an account, and then you are good to go from there. Having said, I would like to pause here and then find out if you have any questions before I continue. Is everything okay with you? Like, you understand everything I've said so far?
I can't hear you. Speak from here.
Hello?
don't have any question.
You don't have any question. Phoebe, how about you?
Nah, I'm still
Okay.
trying to grasp everything. So
Okay. James, I don't know if you have any question. You just joined us. Okay. So if there's no question, I would go ahead with demonstrating how to create an item on Wikidata. To create an item on Wikidata, you first have to log in. But before you log in, you would probably have an item you want to write about. That is anything you can think about. It could be an institution, it could be a book that someone has published, or a publishing company, or so many other things that you can think about. And then you have to log in. You enter your username here and then your password. Since I've already logged onto a Wikipedia site, it's opened automatically for me here. When you visit the main page of Wikidata, that is www.wikidata.org, you find this here, a welcoming page to Wikidata, and then a welcome note and how you can get involved on Wikidata as well. So since I'm already logged in, I am going to go ahead and search for whoever I'm going to write about today. So I'm going to search for Sylvia. She was recently appointed by the president of Ghana. And so I'm going to write about Sylvia Na Adawa Ano. So to do so, I have to first search to know if she exists on Wikidata or not. So here.
hi Harriet, not to interrupt you. So
Okay.
when say I have a Wikipedia account, right? I can
Yes.
use that to log into Wikidata, or I need to create a
Yes.
new account.
Okay, so you can use that same account to log on to all the other projects of the Wikimedia Foundation.
So I'm
And not
trying
just,
to follow you and be doing as well. So
okay. So with the same account that you created, which is very easy, you log in to Wikidata by first visiting the page, that's wikidata.org, and then you log in. So let me know if you're on the same page, and you can go ahead.
hey, let's go on.
Okay, so this is the person I'll be working on. Sylvia Na Adawa Ano. Ano. I'm going to search. I queried the system, and then it came that there were no results matching the query. You may create a new item for Sylvia Na Adawa Ano. So I can go ahead to create the item for Sylvia because she doesn't exist on Wikidata. So click on this, and a page opens and says create a new item here. We find here the language in which I'm going to write this article. So for those of us who can write in any other language, we can feel free to do it, change the language here. Now the label is the name in which I search for the item. If I want to change it right now, I could change it to Sylvia Ano. Okay, just Sylvia Ano. But I want to save it as Sylvia Adawa Ano. And then here I'm going to give a brief description about Soviana Ano, so that if there are so many Sovianos, this description will help someone better in knowing which item I'm going to write about. So for instance, I search for Sylvia Adawa Ano, and I realized she wasn't on Wikidata. But what if she was already on Wikidata and I have 2 or more options existing? This description will give me a better understanding of whoever I'm going to talk about. So it's important that you write a description then. Another thing that can give me a different view that, or maybe Sylvia Ano, there are 2 or more Sylvia Anos, is the unique identity. But aside the unique identity, the description is very important to also tell me that, okay, this Sylvia Ano is different from this. Okay, so in this case, as I mentioned earlier, she was elected by, appointed by the president of Ghana to be an ambassador to Denmark. So what we can write here is, we are going to give a brief description here. She's a Ghanaian diplomat. That's it. She's a Ghanaian diplomat. And over here, if we have any other name that she's noted by, we could write that there. But since we don't have any other name that she's noted, we can go ahead and click create. And that's it. We've created here Soviana Adawa Ano. And you realize that there's a number in brackets here that was um, automatically generated. You are not the one to create that number, but it was automatically generated. And we have here other languages in which you could write Soviana Adawa. So when you are free and you could write in Akan or Ewe, you can translate or write this Soviana Adawa, a Ghanaian diplomat, in these languages. Now, we've said that she's a Ghanaian diplomat, but there's so much you can write about Soviana Adawa Ano for us to know more about a person. So when we mention Phoebe, there's so much to Phoebe that we could know about. And how do we do that? We do that by adding statements. As I said earlier on, to me, statements are just like paragraphs. So to add a statement, you have to click on add statement here. Okay, so that's what you find on your right hand side below the description box. So, and you find here that immediately I click on add statements, on my left hand side under statements, there's property. So we are going to write a property about Sylviana Adawa. And immediately I keep my cursor there, it tells me instance of. This gives me an idea as to what I'm going to talk about here. Is this person an animal, a first class animal, or an animal as in a pet or something? So in this case, we are going to select instance of, and we are going to write here what Soviana Adawa is. So if Soviana Adawa was a building, we'll write there. If it's a human settlement, we'll write. If it's a painting, we write it there. Okay, so this gives us further information as to Sylvia Ano. So in this case, we know she's human. Okay. And then we click on publish. And just like that, we've created our first statement, which tells us that Sylvia Ano is what? A human being. The next thing we are going to do is add statements to tell us her gender. Is she a female or a male? Because you can have names that have that will tell you that this person is a male, but for all you know, this person is female. So sex or gender. And you find here sex or gender, identity of human or animal. So we are selecting that. And we know she's female, so we are going to write female. Now we select the first option because this is what suits what we are writing. That's to be used in sex or gender to indicate that the human subject identifies as a female. Then the next, and after writing this, we have to publish. If you don't publish, it's going to be left hanging. It's like you didn't write anything. Then we are going to add another statement here. We, based on the information we have about what Sylvia. If we have a date of birth, we could write that. If we have her country of origin, we could write that. So for now, we know she's a Ghanaian. So we can write country. country of citizenship, sorry. So country of citizenship. And we have here Ghanaian or Ghana. And then you publish again. So you realize that anytime you attempt to write something or anytime you click to add a statement, there are some suggestions in the property box. Here it tells you to add occupation because these are some of the things you can talk about when it comes to a human being here. The same way if you should select a building, there'll be some pop-up options for you to write about this building. When you talk about a building, there's so much you can talk about. That's the date in which it was commissioned or the date in which it was established or the company that was built this particular building. So we have here some suggestions. We talks about what the occupation of this person. We could write she's a politician here. Or what I think will best suit her now is her position held. Okay. Or we could go ahead and write occupation too as well. Now, if you are confused as to what to write, the best thing to do is consult other people in the same industry or the same place in which this person is found. So there are a lot of Ghanaian diplomats, and whoever you can remember, you can just look for that person and use that as a benchmark or to help you better understand who you are writing about. So, for instance, I'm going to look for the ambassador to Ghana from the US. That's let me see. I think it's Sullivan. I've forgotten the first name. Stephanie Sullivan. Okay, because she's an ambassador to Ghana, and she has an article on Wikipedia, and therefore would have an item on Wikidata. So this is to help you brainstorm to know what you can also do to improve your article that you are writing about based on the information you have. So this is her page, and we find here she's a human being. So you find here an image. This tells us that if we have an image of Sylvia, we can improve Sylvia's page by adding an image to it. And we have sex or gender, which we've added, country of citizenship, birth name, that's the name in which she was given at birth, and then maybe she adopted a name, and so on. We have occupation here, which is diplomat. So here we have an idea as to some of the things with what we can add to Sylvia. Okay. Um, sorry. So we have an idea as to what we can write to Sylvia here. That's her occupation. And we know she's a diplomat. So we start typing the word, and then we are going to have options popping up. Okay. And I would like you to pay attention to the pop-ups that come. So we have here diplomat, that is person appointed by a state to conduct diplomacy. And we have here diplomat, that's the solitaire card game. So if you are going to select an option from this, you have to pay attention to the description provided below this options. I'm not talking about a game here. I'm talking about a position in which someone is appointed for. So in this case, this best suits my my response to the property occupation, that's diplomat. And I'm going to publish that. We could also add some more statements to it. I don't know if you could suggest some more statements to me. Anything you can think about, just let me know so that I'll add that.
Harriet, hi. So can you
Yeah.
state if she's married or not, number of children,
Yes.
uh,
So for
family, and
so
maybe the
for
school she attended?
great. That's a very good question you asked. In this case, if we know if we know her spouse, okay, and this spouse is a popular person, then we can add a spouse to it by creating a statement and saying spouse. Okay, the subject has the object as their spouse, husband, wife, or partner. Okay,
So if the spouse isn't popular, you don't add
then
it.
yes, because per the guidelines of Wikipedia, we know very well that we don't just write about anything, but things that are credible, and credible things are things that have sources attached to them. You understand? Because there's publications on them. There's enough information about them out there from credible um, places on the internet. You understand? And the thing is, if you are going to write a spouse here, one, because this system is such that every information is linked. If I'm saying that the spouse is Kwesi Minta, let me just type Kwesi Minta here and see. You realize that there's no option for me to add what Kwesi Minta. There's nothing. So I can't even publish my work in the first place because we want this information to be linked. And there's a
So
reason why we
technically, if you're writing about somebody in Wikidata, it means that the
yes,
person should have an article written about them in Wikipedia.
not
So
an
that's where the
article, but
link comes.
okay, so an item, the person exists already on Wikidata. No, you see that when we started writing the item on Sylvia, she didn't exist on Wiki data, but we were able to create it. But if we are adding properties or values, then they should exist on Wikidata. But that doesn't mean that if it's not there, you can't add it. So for instance, maybe Kwesi Minta is a very popular person, but it says that he doesn't have an item on Wikidata. You can go ahead and what create an item for Kwesi Minta, and then you can link it here as a spouse. So that's
One can have an account, one can have an item on Wikidata and not necessarily have an article on Wikipedia. And
Wikipedia, yes. Yes, and this is the
okay,
case for Sylvia. Sylvia and currently has no article on Wikipedia, but we are here creating an item for what Sylvia on Wikidata. So you realize
okay.
that the publish button hasn't been enabled for me to be able to add anything.
Uh,
Like you suggested, we can add information on her um
so
education.
assuming that the husband is popular, right? And then you
Yes,
can't link him here, you need to
yes,
leave the space blank and then finish with this and go and create his article or something. Then you can come back and edit this one and link him
yes.
with it.
You can quickly create an item for the husband by opening a new tab and then creating an item for the husband. But you can go ahead with other statements that you have available.
Okay.
Yes. So in this case, I have no idea as to the school in which she attended, but I have here that she's the head of public affairs at the Electoral Commission. So this tells me that I can possibly add this information to what her portfolio um, about her. So add statements. And this is a position she's held as the public affairs personnel for the Electoral Commission. So position held. Now, position held, and this could be Electoral Commission. Let me see. Let me see if I can find anything on public affairs or something. So we have so many other public affairs industry, public affairs, political party in the Czech Republic, publisher. This has no information, so I can't possibly add the position held public affairs. You understand? Because I can't seem to find this. But I know very well Charlotte has served as an EC chair, so I could visit her page to have an idea as to some of the things that I could add regarding this instance where she's a public someone who worked with the Electoral Commission. So we have here a lawyer, position held. So she has been the president of. So here it's easy for us to add president because we have a president item on Wikidata of which we could add. And then we can add more qualifiers, Electoral Commission of Ghana and all. Now, since we can't get a maybe I'm supposed to think of something which is not occurring. Now let me see. So we are going to put this on hold, but I realize that there's more we can add to the diplomat. There's more we can add by stating the time in which she began being a diplomat. And for all we know, she has always been the head of the Electoral Commission, head of public affairs. Let me try that again and see. I don't think there'll be anything like head of. No, we have here head of Public Library of Science. No. So we are going to hold on to that. But I realized we could add more qualifiers to this. That is the time in which he was appointed. Okay. So to add a qualifier, you must be working in the same statements that you want to talk about or add more qualifiers to. And when you click on edit, let me just do that again. To add a qualifier, you first click on edit and you click on add qualifier. So we have your point in time. So this is time and date something took place, existed or statement was true, or time an item begins to exist or starts being valid. So you understand. So at this point in time, she was appointed or she started being a diplomat or serving as a diplomat to the Denmark at this time. So we could add that start time. So we have here the date Akufo-Addo appoints EC Ano. So we could use this date here as a time in which she begins, or date that's the 1st March 2021. So we could add start time. So 1st March 2021. Yes. Then we publish. So now we've stated here that she began in this particular date. So if there's a time that it comes to an end, like for us for unforeseen circumstances, it comes to an end, maybe she's reappointed, or she's no more the diplomat or ambassador to this, then we are going to write and add another qualifier and tell us the timing which it ended, end time. And then we write that here as well, and then publish. Now, with this particular information, we could reference it. It's important that we reference information on Wikidata as well, and not only on Wikipedia. So this particular information, where did we get it from? We could add what reference. So we are going to add reference here. And again, the property here is wherever we found this information from. Is it in a book or a website somewhere? So we could use, mostly websites, we use reference URL. So I'm going to select this, and then copy the link here that I found. Control C, and then paste V here. Because now you find here that I've done all this, yet I can't publish. So there's probably a problem existing here. And this is because I have created another qualifier, but I haven't added any value to it. So to remove that, I just click on remove, and it takes it out. And you realize that publish has been enabled for me. So I click on publish. And we have here a reference. So whoever wants to know more can visit this page, and then we'll find more information about this. So statements like date of birth, the religion, if we had the religion of Sylvia, we could add that. So it's important that you would conduct a research on these persons, and then you'll be able to add more information as much as possible to it. And you keep adding statements, and it keeps growing. Okay, so now you find here this Wikipedia, Wikinews, Wikisource, Wikivoyage, and all the other places. These are all the other projects of the Wikimedia Foundation, some of the other projects of Wikimedia Foundation. So supposing she had an article on Wikipedia, we could write it here, and then whoever is reading about her on Wikidata can read further about her on Wikipedia here by visiting any of these links. That means if she has, she's in Wikibooks, you can visit this link. So let me demonstrate it with Charlotte's item here. We are now on the page of Charlotte Osei, and we find here that she has an article written in Wikipedia. So, and it's in English Wikipedia, and it's in I don't know this language, Egyptian Arabic. Okay, so you could find it in Arabic as well, and you could find this in French as well. These are the other languages in which you could find Charlotte's article. And if you should go to Commons right now, you'll find Charlotte's picture there. If you click on it, it will lead you to Charlotte's image, or where you can find images about Charlotte. And Commons is also another sister project of the Wikimedia another project of the Wikimedia Foundation. So you find the images of Charlotte here. So there's so much you can do with adding statements on Wikidata, and you're not just limited to this. If we had a signature of Sylvia, we can add that. And like I said, her image, and many other things. Now, I would like to show you something here. We have here identifiers. It's the same for this Sullivan, where we had she also has a Wikipedia article and an article written in Arabic. Okay, and even on Commons too, you have pictures of her. Now you find here identifiers. Okay, various sites where you can, these identifiers are places where you can find information about whoever you are writing on. So if we have places where we can, external sites where we can find information about Sylvia, we can add them here as what identifiers. Okay, that's like we have here at with Stefan. So VIFAID, and immediately you click on it, it will give you a better understanding as to what this is, and then the exact page of this particular person. So I'd like to pause here and find out if you have any questions for me.
Okay.
Are there any questions for me?
I'd like to. I like
Yes,
to
can you?
find out.
Okay.
So with the wiki data, you
Yes.
said the data the wiki data cannot only be written about people, but about objects, maybe institutions, and other items. So I was wondering,
Yes.
so does it mean that the purpose of writing this wiki data for these items is because we can maybe perform a query search on multiple wiki data? But so far, I
Okay.
haven't seen anything like when we have structured query languages like that. It means maybe we can search for maybe people, maybe if we take institutions, for example, maybe we can
Yes.
search for maybe institutions that have this particular property or something like that.
Yes.
Maybe because so far we are only looking at single wiki data and we haven't, because if we can't perform operations like this, then what's the purpose of writing individual wiki?
Yes. Okay. So thank you so much for your question. I was actually going to tell you more about that because that's the fun part of Wikidata. Aside solving those two problems, we realize that on Wikipedia you have information. There's so much more information, so much information. But what can you do with this information? It's very difficult for you to query the system on Wikipedia. So with this Wikidata, it's very easy for you to query the system. And I'm going to show you some of the queries that have been made on Wikidata. Okay.
Okay.
So, so you could query the system on Wikidata, and we use a tool called Sparkle, and that's what we use to query the system. You find here a list of queries that have been made and examples of queries that have been made. And this is a whole list of them. So you can actually use the system. It's important that you should have data and you being able to make use of this data. And Wikidata allows you to do that. That's why it's an open knowledge base where we want people to what have access to more information and not just have access to it, but to be able to do more. So for instance, I search for a query here that talks about a female artists that exist, okay, on the that's on Wikidata. And this is it. We are going to try making a query on that. So this is the query and it's being running query. Okay. So we'll just wait for it to run the query. While we wait, I'd just like to reiterate the fact that we live in an era where information is important or data is important. With data, we are able to simulate things and also have a better understanding of what's happening in the world. So Wikidata allows us to Wikidata provides us this opportunity to be able to do more with data, with Wikidata. And here we find here a list of women, okay, on Wikidata that are female artists. You can find a whole lot of them. If you click on their link, it will open you to their page that tells you more about them. I also ran a query here that talks.
How do we get to the page where we actually make the queries?
Okay, so there's a
Before you get
particular
there,
tool.
wait, hold on. Before you get there, I want to be clear on something. The queries, no, is it articles that have been written or something?
Like message. The person
Okay,
wanted to find
so
out the number of women who are artists,
Okay.
who are on the
So you can just go and search. All right, so do the quizzes.
okay, so I first mentioned that to query the system, there's a tool called the Sparkle Query Service. Okay, and this is more or less like coding. You're going to get some codes with regards to this particular system. So we have here women, that is with a particular number that identifies as women, and on also artists. You understand? These are two important things we want to know. Women who are artists, and we are going to use that to query the system. It's a code. You have to learn that. Now, when we query the system with this coding, that is
Harriet,
when we, yes.
Harriet, sorry. So he's trying to ask where, how did you get to this point? Like this
Okay,
particular
so
page.
no, okay, so these are, like I said, this is a page that tells you some of the examples of queries that have been made. So I didn't make this query, but these are pages that have examples of queries that have been made. And I just clicked on in one of the links. Okay, I had one on female artists and list of computer
No.
files and all those stuff. But you're not limited to this. There's more you can do. But today, our focus is in introducing you to it and what you can do with.
Okay, so you just type S query or query in Wikidata and then you come here, or
Yeah,
where
or
do you
Sparkle
search?
Query. I could share the link with you. Wikidata Sparkle Query Services or service here.
Also, you can just type this in your search engine and then it comes.
Yeah, so we have here Sparkle, and then you can learn more about it here. A portal. I could share the link with you so that you could query the system when you want to. So like I said, we did that, ran the query on women, and this is what we found. I earlier on did a query on music composers by birthplace. Okay, and it's also found on the page that I told you about where we have sample queries. And when the system was queried, this is a visualization of the women composers by birthplace. And this is how it is. You found them. We found them here, a little concentration here and all. So there's so much more you can do with Wikidata. And I heard Phoebe asking Solo if it's just the information you find on what do you call it, Wikidata. Earlier on, I said if you visit Sullivan's page, that's Stephanie Sullivan's page, we found identifiers on it. So Wikidata doesn't just limit you to information on Wikidata, but it also gives you access to all links to informations on other places where you can find information about the person you want to talk about or you want to know more about. You understand? Um, I would want to show that with this. So like I said earlier on, Stephanie's qualifiers here, these are other places that if you should click on or visit, you are going to find information about what the person you are writing about. So you're not just limited to the information on Wikidata, but so many other links. Now, another way to you can get information, and there are so many tools that you can enable when you go to Wikidata. Here, these are preferences. And we have so many tools, gadgets here that you could enable, merge, or select anyone that you can best work with. Easy Query, a tool to add an icon for finding items with some same statements easier. So these are things I could add to it to enable me edit easily or to find things or query the system. Okay. I don't know if there are any other questions as well. I was thinking you would ask me why we have numbers and the labels as well. So numbers are very easy to work with and they are not ambiguous, unlike labels. You realize that if we should write Sylvia Arno, we could have Sylvia Arno, who is a musician. We could have Sylvia Arno as a street name. We could have Sylvia Arno as a hotel or a guest house. You understand? Or a building. So we are not. So the thing is, numbers that are distinct to a particular item on Wikipedia makes it easy. So we have here that when we find Soviano, which is a hotel, it will have a unique number attached to it, and machines are are able to use these numbers to query the system. You understand? To the human eye, we have Soviana Ano, but to the software or the machines or robots, we have numbers, and that is why we use numbers here. There are so many other exciting tools. So you ask yourself, I don't know how to add information on Wikidata, or I don't know how to contribute to Wikidata. Like I just started the article from scratch. There's something to help people to contribute on Wikidata as well, and which is called the Wikidata game. You know, you do not only have fun whilst adding playing the game, but you also improve content that is found on Wikidata. So we have here the Wikidata game. With the Wikidata game, it's a whole lot for there are so many things one can do with it. So for instance, we realize that I'm writing an item about Sylvia, and then someone else goes to write an item about Sylvia and no, but this time around, the person didn't use na, let's say the middle name of Sylvia, na Adawa. So you realize that we'll have two articles about the same person existing on Wikidata. So some of these games you can play to merge these items. So for instance, we have a reference hunt, reference hunt suggestions to add references. So if I didn't add a reference to maybe the date of birth of Sylvia, it will pop up in this area that is reference hunt so that I can add a reference to this date of birth. So we have this game too called Category Facts. Explore hidden facts up from category. One where now we find here that Sylvia's article does not have what her date of birth here. Or even if it has, maybe on the other article that someone has written, it also have a different date of birth. So a game I can also play is what insert the date of birth of these items that I'm writing about from credible sources. So for instance, if someone has passed on and we it hasn't been added to that particular item of Wikidata, you could add them. Recently, we heard that a policewoman, the first policewoman in Ghana, Rosemond, I don't know. Let me check. First policewoman in Ghana. First Ghanaian policewoman. Yeah. So she already has an article on Wikipedia. So and she has an article on Wikidata. To know if this person has an article on Wikidata, you can find it on the left-hand side, Wikidata, under Tools. And you have here the Wikidata statement of Rosemond in Cancer. Now we have date of birth, and you realize that she died on the 20th February 2021. Okay, so just in case this wasn't added here, there's a likelihood or there's a high possibility will be found in missing date of birth. So these are some of the games, and then like software item matcher. So maybe you want to match two profiles of the same person. These are some of the games you can play with Wikidata, and you're not just playing a game, but you're also improving the content that's on Wikidata. I don't know if there are any questions. Okay, so I think this is it about creating items on Wikidata. If you do not have any questions, then I would like to call the meeting to an end. But if you do, I don't realize James is on the call. James, if you want to ask further questions, you could stay behind and then ask further questions. Apart from that, I'd say thank you, and then I hope you contribute to Wikidata. Yeah.
Thank you, Harriet. And we'll sure come back to ask more questions if we have any. But then we'll look at. Can you please share the YouTube link to this video when we are done, so that we'll look at it when it becomes necessary. But well, since we're on the group, so we'll talk.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome. All right. Bye.